I can still hear the sound of her ribs breaking, that sharp, awful crack. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the morning like a rifle shot. People say war leaves its scars on the battlefield. They're wrong. Sometimes it finds you again years later right in your own driveway. It was supposed to be just another Saturday morning in Brookhaven Hills, Texas. Quiet suburb, trimmed lawns, the smell of cut grass and barbecues. The kind of neighborhood where nothing bad ever happens until it does. I'd spent 7 years trying to bury the soldier in me after leaving the Navy SEALs. I traded gunfire for lawnmowers, sandstorms for sprinkler systems. I told myself I'd learned how to breathe again, that I could just be an ordinary man. That morning I was washing my old Ford F-150 water hissing across the chrome. Sarah, my wife of 12 years, was unloading groceries from the SUV, humming some old pop song under her breath. She looked like peace made human, blue sundress hair catching the sunlight. I remember thinking, this is it. This is what I fought for. Then she looked at me and said, "That gray Malibu drove by again last night." Her voice wasn't nervous, just certain. I laughed it off. Probably a lost delivery driver. But she frowned, told me packages were disappearing around the block, that the Willis's doorbell camera went dark 2 nights ago. I told her if there's real trouble, I'll see it coming. I wish I'd listened harder. The signs were there, footprints by our fence, the same cigarette butt left by the mailbox every morning, a half-torn flyer on the community board warning about fake HOA inspectors. But denial's a comfortable thing. You can wrap it around yourself like a blanket and call it peace. Our neighborhood had a homeowners association on paper. In reality, it was one man, Richard Kane, a slick real estate guy who liked to call himself president, smiled for photos, shook hands at block parties, but underneath, a predator. He'd been trying to buy out older homes on our street, ours included, to build high-end townhouses. When families refused, they started getting visits, broken fences, missing mail finds that didn't exist. Fear was his business model. I didn't know it then, but Kane had hired 2 local thugs, Troy Maddox and Cal Rivers, to pose as HOA enforcement officers. Fake badges, cheap clipboards, a script about violations. Their job was simple: intimidate, harass, make life unbearable until people sold and left. That Saturday they came for us. The sun was high, the air humming with that summer stillness right before something breaks. Sarah was on her second trip from the SUV to the porch when 2 men walked up the driveway. Orange safety vests, dark sunglasses, cheap printed badges hanging from lanyards. "Ma'am," the taller one said, voice sharp and flat, "you're in violation of HOA regulations." Sarah blinked. "We don't have an HOA on this street." He smiled without his eyes. "Multiple complaints, unauthorized vehicle trash violations, unapproved landscaping. We'll have to issue a fine." I turned off the hose, watching. They didn't move like officials. They moved like men who expected compliance. Cal, the stockier one, was scanning our porch, our garage, inventorying things that weren't his. Sarah's tone hardened. "You've got the wrong address." That's when Troy reached for her arm. It wasn't dramatic, just a quick practiced grab, then a shove. 1 second she was standing, the next she hit the curb hard. The sound that followed, that crack, it froze my blood. For a heartbeat everything slowed. The water from the hose hissed against the concrete. Milk spilled from a broken bag. Sarah tried to breathe and couldn't. Then training took over. The world narrowed to angles, distances, threat vectors. The shorter man crouched over Sarah's purse, pawing through it. The bearded one, Troy, just stood there watching her gasp for air like it meant nothing. I stepped forward, boots splashing through the puddle. "Back off." He looked up, half a smirk on his face. "Stay where you are, tough guy." But when he saw my eyes, the smirk faltered. I wasn't seeing him. I was seeing Fallujah, the faces of men who thought they owned the world. I felt that old familiar quiet settle in, the kind that comes right before you act. Then Cal reached for his belt, the glint of metal, a knife. I needed to move, but Sarah was on the ground behind him. If he lunged, she had nowhere to go. For 1 terrible second, I froze. Then Sarah, through the pain, reached into her fallen purse and pulled out a small can of pepper spray. With a trembling hand, she hit Cal full in the face. He screamed, stumbling back, clutching his eyes. It gave me 3 seconds enough. I ran for the porch, slid open the hidden panel by the doorframe, and felt the cool, familiar weight of the M4 in my hands. The rifle I swore I'd never touch again. The moment it hit my shoulder, my heartbeat slowed. Safety off. Sight up. Breathe. When I turned, Troy was dragging Cal toward the gray Malibu, parked crooked on the curb. "Stop the car!" I shouted, hands where I can see them. They didn't listen. The engine roared, tires squealing. 6 seconds, that's all it took. The first shot hit the front fender. Pop. The second took out the side mirror. Pop. The third punched through the hood, steam erupted. Pop. The fourth shredded the tire. Pop. The fifth shattered the back glass. Pop. The sixth drilled straight through the trunk. Pop. Then silence. Smoke rising from the car like breath in cold air. Both men stumbled out, hands raised, all the swagger gone. I kept the rifle steady, face down, now. Sirens wailed in the distance. Neighbors peeked from porches, phones recording. Sarah was still on the ground, clutching her ribs, eyes wide but steady. I stood between her and them until the police arrived. The officers cuffed Troy and Cal without a fight. One of them, a gray-haired sergeant, looked at me, then at Sarah. "You did what you had to," he said quietly. "They found everything in that Malibu, stolen mail, counterfeit HOA badges, burglary tools, even a handgun under the seat. But peace didn't return that day. It got replaced by scrutiny. The story hit the local news before sunset. Navy SEAL opens fire in suburban street, 6 shots in 6 seconds. Some called me a hero. Others said I'd overreacted. My phone blew up with reporters asking if I'd snapped. I didn't answer. I just sat in the empty house that night, staring at the spot on the driveway where Sarah had fallen, replaying that sound again and again. By Monday, I was called in to give a full statement. The Detective Holloway was calm, methodical. I told him everything: the missing packages, the gray car, the assault, the knife, the 6 rounds into the vehicle. He listened, then nodded. "Castle doctrine's clear. You were on your own property. They attacked your wife. You didn't fire at them directly." Still waiting for the DA's decision felt like sitting on a live grenade. When the news broke that no charges would be filed, I should have felt relief. I didn't, because the fight wasn't really over. Not yet. At the hearing for Troy and Cal, their lawyer tried to downplay everything, said it was a misunderstanding gone bad. Then Troy decided to talk. Maybe guilt, maybe revenge. He admitted they'd been hired by Richard Kane, the HOA president. Said Kane wanted to scare a few stubborn homeowners into selling. The courtroom went dead quiet. When they subpoenaed Kane, he showed up looking polished as ever, hair-perfect smile tight. Under oath, he denied everything until the DA produced bank records matching cash payments and grainy bar footage of him handing Troy an envelope. You could see his cufflinks flash under the neon light. It was enough. Kane's voice cracked, his confidence collapsed, and the jury saw him for what he was, a man who'd built power on fear and thought no one would ever fight back. When the verdict came, I didn't feel triumph, just exhaustion, the kind that seeps into your bones. After the sentencing, Kane avoided my eyes as they led him out. His face was pale, the kind of pale that only comes when a man realizes his power's gone for good. I walked outside into the sunlight, the same sunlight that had fallen on Sarah that morning. For a second, everything was quiet again, the lawns, the breeze, the ordinary sound of life going on. And I thought about that first rule we learned in the field. Trust your point man's instincts. At home, my point man was Sarah. She'd seen it coming long before I did. I ignored her and she paid for it. I learned something that day, not about combat or law or justice, but about peace. It isn't given, it's kept. And sometimes to protect it, you have to remember what you were trained to do. Even if it means waking up the part of yourself you swore you'd buried.